What if I told you the software your business relies on every day, your CRM, your website platform, even your internal tools, might not actually be yours? Not because you didn't pay for it, but because legally you probably only have permission to use it under very specific conditions. And if you get those conditions wrong, the consequences can range from inconvenient to critical loss of access to systems overnight. Welcome back to Elise Explains IP, the podcast where we make intellectual property practical for business owners, founders, and advisors. Today, I'm talking about software licensing basics, what it means, why it matters, and where businesses tend to get caught out. This is one of those areas that seems super technical, but is really about control, risk, and business continuity. Let's start with the core concept. When you buy software, you're usually not buying the software itself. You're buying a license to use it. That means the developer owns the intellectual property. You get permission to use it, subject to their terms. Think of it like renting a property. You can live in it, but you don't own it, and there are rules about how you can use it. Software works in the same way. This isn't just legal theory. It can affect real decisions, like can your team share access to the software? Can you customize the software? What happens if you stop paying? And can you move your data elsewhere? And most importantly, what happens if the relationship breaks down? Because at that point, the license terms become very real. Let's look at the main categories you'll come across in your software journey. Number one is SaaS, which is software as a service. This is what a lot of businesses use today. Think about Xero or Salesforce or Shopify. The key features are that you don't download the software. You access it online or via the cloud, and you pay via subscription. The key risk is if that you stop paying or breach the terms of the agreement, that access can be revoked. You don't just lose the software, you may lose access to your data and workflows. 2 are perpetual licenses. This is a more traditional model of software licensing. It's a one-time purchase with an ongoing right to use that version. But sometimes updates can cost extra and support might be limited. The key risk here for you is that you can end up with an outdated or unsupported system. 3, open source software. This is where things get a bit complicated. Open source doesn't mean no rules. It just means that the code is available, but use is usually governed by specific license terms. Some licenses are very permissive. Others require that you share your own code if you build onto it. And the key risk is that you're accidentally breaching license terms, particularly if you're using it in a commercial product. 4, custom-built software. This is a big one for growing businesses. You hire a developer or an agency to build the software for you. Here's the trap. Unless your contract says otherwise, the developer usually owns the IP, not you. You may only have a license to use it. You may also run the risk of the developer using open source or other licensed codes, and then you get locked out. Let's go through a scenario. A business invests heavily in a custom platform. It's got a CRM system, a booking tool, internal workflow software, everything runs through it. And then the relationship with the developer breaks down. And suddenly, you can't access updates, you can't modify the system, you may even lose access entirely. Because you never secured ownership, only a license to use it. And at that point, you're not just dealing with a legal issue, you're also dealing with an operational crisis. So, what are the key license terms to watch out for? When you're reviewing a software license, these are the areas that usually matter. The first one is scope of use. Who can use it? How many users? Is it internal use only? How are these determined? Number 2 is access and termination. What happens if you stop paying? How much notice is required? And do you get time to export your data? 3, data ownership. Do you own your data? Can you extract it easily? And in what format would that extraction occur? 4 is transferability. Can you sell or transfer the license if you were to restructure your business? What happens if you sell your business? 5, customization rights. Can you modify the software? Can you get third parties to work on it? Here are some of the patterns that I see frequently. Assuming that we paid for it, so we own it. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. Secondly is not checking what happens on termination, especially with SaaS. This is critical. Thirdly is ignoring data extraction rights. You don't want to be locked in. Just ask law firms in Australia about a certain market player that has a pretty expensive data extraction plan and no alternatives. 4. No IP clause in developer agreements. This is how businesses lose control of custom systems. So if you're running a business, here's what I'd suggest. Firstly, audit your key software. Ask, what do we rely on most? And what happens if we lose access? Secondly, review your licenses, at least at a high level. Focus on the term and termination, the data access, and the ownership of the data. Thirdly, for custom software, get clear on IP. You generally want ownership, or at the very least, an irrevocable license to use. Fourthly, plan for exit. Always assume, what if we need to leave this platform? Where will we go, and how do we get our data out? This isn't just about compliance, it's about control. Software sits at the centre of most modern businesses. Customer data, financial records, operations. If you don't control access to those systems, you don't fully control your business. Software licensing isn't something most people think about. Often it's just a tick and a click to accept. You roll it out across your business and it's fine until something goes wrong. But a small amount of clarity up front can prevent a very expensive problem later. If you're not sure where you stand, or if you're about to invest in a new software or a custom build, it's worth getting advice early. If you'd like help reviewing your software arrangements or making sure your business is properly protected, you can book a strategy call via my website. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who's building or scaling a business. Because this is one of those risks that often flies under the radar until it's too late. Thanks for spending time with me on Elise Explains IP. If you picked up something useful, hit follow, subscribe, leave us a review, or send it to a founder friend who could use this information. And remember, this is general information, not legal advice. If you do want help with your IP, you can book a strategy call with me at any time via my website. The link's in the description. So until next time, own your own ideas.